Okay, I hope you like the two new videos that I uploaded. Actually, I wanted to prepare more, but I ran out of battery, so it's okay. One thing that I think was demonstrated again is that Neos are doing fine in freezer, but we have many other frozen slides, even in better condition, in a way that it seems that it was more biological activity was conducted on them during the last 8 days or so that they were freezed. So we will use that later today for more experiments and more videos, and of course more magnetism research. I also hope you liked the new video with all the germs. This was taken from the one that conducted the small magnetism experiment. All of them, all the 20 or so photographs were taken from the same slide, which I think demonstrates very well that they worked really hard in producing pictures or perhaps sculptures or perhaps golems of all kinds of germs. What I want to do now is very briefly do something that I didn't do a lot in the YouTube stage, which is discuss history. It's something that I've discussed I speculated a lot about history during the years that I've spoken on the Twitter stage, at Facebook stage, and in my private Evernote account. I mean, I kind of like. I tried not to do it too much on YouTube because I want to be very, because on this stage, like in the hour, in this time, it's the last act of the opera, of the last episode of the series, and hopefully there will not be no more, no more seasons to this series, but who knows? And it's not a time to deep dive too much into mythology and history, even though they are very important and interesting. And I've spoken a lot about it, but I'll do something that I didn't do and speak a little bit about history, and I will try to summarize a few of the stuff that I already said and add a little bit of theory. And I want to discuss the issue of crime and punishment in the eyes of God. One thing that it was very clear to me I got disillusioned. From the state of Israel, and I understand that it's an evil country and that they are enslaving another race and they're enslaving me, and this is the worst place in history. I also understood that it cannot be a new thing. I understand that it's kind of like a repeating theme in the history of Israel, and there were other messengers, at least one of them, I'm certain about him, but there were probably more like me during the history of Israel. And they always act the most horrible way, and also they are also always getting punished, which makes the situation hopeless. Israelis are like alligators. I've said it a lot. They cannot be tamed. They are resistant to evolution. They stay the same thing they are. The only cure is total annihilation, because they already got punished. Several times during the history of the states, and they are used to violence. They are used to them getting steriles and not raising their own children, and not being able to have proper sex. They are used to all sorts of horrible punishments, especially inside the intelligence and the defense systems in Israel. So, and this makes them super evil, because it's part of their life to torture and to be tortured and to be punished and to continue their evil ways, and their situation is hopeless. And this is it's one of the reasons, not the only one, why I always said my situation, the hell that I live in, will not improve by people abroad moving tongues and mouses. It will only get worse, because Israelis cannot be reasoned with. If you speak with Israelis, they only torture me more. So every time someone speaks with Israel regarding my situation, I'm getting, and it's like putting another like a stick on my fire where I'm burned, or putting another nail in my cross. Literally, it's like that. Only arms and legs might improve my situation. And since no one moves even a single arm and legs, and only tongues and mouths are kept moving, I'm continuing my research, which will almost certainly already started the end of mankind. But if by chance it still didn't happen, it will surely happen very soon. And again, once you see microbes or flies or insects or other microorganisms created in front of your eyes. By the way, you already seen that 2 weeks ago, but it was they were very small, so maybe you were not convinced. But once you will see that, you will be certain that what you see is actually it. You will see life forms that are big enough in order to identify under the microscope, and you will see them revive in front of your eye. After you've seen it, it is certainly, it's with all certainty means that smaller ones were already created long ago and are on their way to take control over this planet. And we are not talking about the Omicron or the Delta variants of the corona. We are speaking about SARS that is immune to alcohol, immune to oxygen, immune to soap. This is what it's, and you will need to level up a lot your epidemic practices. I'm only kidding, you're dead. Anyway, I really don't understand you, man. You prefer speaking and talking to actually moving hands and legs. It's amazing. Why do we have all this weaponry? Why do we need all these fancy B2s and I don't know, F-35s and 11 super carriers? And are they all like to sell merchandise, G.I. Joe merchandise and things like that? What do you use it for? Do you think that ever in the history of mankind there was a better or more suited historical situation to use those toys than now? You do not understand what it takes. The corona is nothing. It's like a little game for children. The corona is absolutely nothing compared to what's probably already on the way to you. But if not, will be on the way to you very soon. Anyway, okay, you do your thing, I will do my thing. Anyway, let's get back to history. So I understood that it's something that, it's part of the secret history of Israel since a long, and I spoke a lot about all sorts of events that I hypothesized. First I saw that they happened during the 80s, but then I pushed them back to the 70s, and I've created my own alternative history, but of course it's very inaccurate, and I don't know. I don't know the real history. But I do know is this country was evil, and it was evil since, before it was formally created in 1948, because it's impossible that they became so organized, that the evil was so organized and so rooted in the country in, the small period of time between 48 and the 70s, where it's, the rest of the world surely knew about things that's going on, because since the 70s, this is truly an international matter. And I've spoken about it a lot. It's, that I have a lot of evidence that since the late 70s probably, this is, everybody knew about what's going on. What's everybody? I don't know if everybody, the United States and the Soviet Union for certain knew about what's going on, and were part of the, they kind of like, took control of the situation by managing Israel, but of course it only got, a situation just got worse, and that's why America is going to punish to be, you see, this is the Israel flag, blackened, because Israel will be completely destroyed. The American flag will not be complete. It's not completely blackened because the United States will not completely be destroyed, but you see how much, you can see the proportion of how much we left of it. So I understood that it's something that is way older than that. Now, it should be said that the state of Israel is not really 74 years old. It wasn't really created in 1948. It was officially declared in 1948 following a United Nations resolution in 1947. But for all purposes, it is crucial to understand that the story of Israel is the story of Zionism. Israel and Zionism are almost synonymous in a way that the Zionist movement is de facto the state of Israel. And the Zionist movement began in the late 19th century. And Israel actually was created in the late 19th century because when the actual country was declared and the British formally withdrew their forces, and finished the British mandate on 1948, and then the War of Independence started the war with the other. It was actually more complicated than that because the British were actually involved in the War of Independence. But when I've spoken about it before, but these are very complicated issues. But I'll try to be, oversimplified because we can't speak too much now. Anyway, when the War of Independence with the other the adjacent Arab nations and also the Arab population inside Israel was started in 1948. Everything which, all the foundations of the country, of the state were already in place. They had, sort of military already, and, pretty organized one, even primitive one, but organized one. And they had, but more important than that, they had everything was already set up. The culture systems, the judiciary systems, the police, the jailhouses, the education, public medicine, which was incredibly for the time and for the undeveloped state status of Israel. When you think about 1948, they had incredibly developed public medical system, even compared to the United States of America at the time. Compared to almost everywhere at the time. So they already had a lot in place, and this was due to because of the fact that it was not really true that the country was created at 1948. It was created non-formally by the Zionists starting in the 19th century. So it was actually 50 years old when it was formally declared. Now, during these 50 years, many things happened in this place. It wasn't like everything fine and cool. There were many conflicts and many wars and famines and what not. It was a long period. It's not that long, but it was maybe 50 years or 60 years of Zionism that was actually 60 years of the history of the state of Israel. And of course, Israelis like to paint those years as heroic and romantic, and because these were the founding fathers. But in actuality, it was very, very different. It was extremely different than how it is depicted by nationalist history in Israel. Now, even without speaking about the problem of the extraterrestrials and the genocide, we need to understand that even without it, it is clear that situation was very complicated, and things were not that fine, and there are many. I can't get into it too much, so let's get to the point. It is clear to me that during the late 19th century, or maybe the early 20th century, the early Zionists here in Israel, which came from Europe to Israel, they discovered the gate and they started the enslavement of the extraterrestrials and the genocide, and it's clear to me because when the country was established 50 years later, this was already part of part of the Israeli culture. It cannot be any other way. Now, I can't say that I know everything that happened back then, but it is certain that the enslavement of the extraterrestrial and the genocide and the torture was part of the proto-Israeli state, which means the 50 years of Zionism that preceded the actual declaration of the states. And when the states was declared, they already had 50 years of genocide and torture behind them. Now for the punchline, one could argue that the Holocaust itself was a punishment from God for those crimes. So but now you can ask. But the punishment was handed to the Jews in Europe, not to the Jews in Israel. Rommel did not conquer Israel, so no one that was actually in Israel was hurt during the Holocaust. So I mean, how can you explain it? So I will say that, I mean, God asks, I mean, where did these people come from? Where did, I mean, those monsters come from? And they came from Europe. These were all original European Jews. And the people that were punished were the communities that sent them. And why is this very relevant for today? Because it goes in parallel to what I always say now. You and the Americans, the Americans, the French, the British, the German nations that sent your scumbags, your pedophiles, your perverts here to Israel to be part of the intelligence community of Israel, because you don't want to deal with those piece of shits in your places. So you send them here to the trash can that is called Israel. You should know that you will be punished. Those nations will be punished severely by God, because you cannot send your shit over here so they will create genocide here and they will torture people here and they will rape children here, because you don't want to deal with them at your place. You need to, every country needs to deal with the trash within its borders. You can't create a trash can, a trash can country, and send all the trash over there. And after Israel is finished, and it's going to happen very soon, you are not, anywhere of one of you are not allowed to create another trash can state and send your trash over there. You will be punished severely for what you've already done. Any country that sends trash people here to Israel to populate the intelligence and the defense community will be punished severely by God. And when I'm speaking about punishment, first of all, I'm speaking about asteroids which are on the way. I don't know how many are you aware of, because, and I mean, who are you? I'm not speaking only to the Americans. I guess the Americans have the most advanced detection system, but even that is not certain. But I mean, the Americans are not only, I do not aim to speak only to Americans. I speak to anyone who wants to listen. And I don't know what kind of telescopes you have. Maybe you don't have almost none. So I would say that there are many on the way. And the first after Israel, the first to be punished are the people that sent the trash to Israel, the trash people to Israel, because the trash people are the ones that are now currently torturing me at this moment, and torturing my daughters, and committing genocide, and doing all sorts of atrocities. And you cannot wash your hands of that, because these people, you sent them over here. And you should have known that this will be the result.